Hi guys, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to make this tutorial today and share this with you. It is using a regular book as an art journal. Now, how fantastic is this idea? Now, I have to tell you that I didn't come up with this by myself. Years ago, when I took an art class with brilliant artist Connie Solera, she shared this nifty idea with us, and I was instantly smitten. Now, what you can do is you can repurpose a book you already own, or you can thrift a book, or you can purchase one specifically for this purpose. So what I did is I purchased all of my books, but I have looked around my home and I just love all my books so much that I really couldn't find one that I wanted to repurpose for this reason. But this is my very first book that I used to turn into an art journal. It's called Colors, and I will list all this information in the comments below, in the description below. But the reason why I picked this book is because Connie Solera, the artist, brilliant, amazing artist. If you ever get a chance to take a class with her, then just go for it. You will not regret it. But this was a book that she used, so I wanted to copy her because I thought, well, if she used this book, then it's got to be a great book to turn into an art journal. So I basically copied her and purchased this book. And I'm gonna show you, see, I filled most of it up, but I'm gonna show you how not to use it because I made this mistake because I wasn't comfortable or familiar with turning a book into an art journal. So I'm going to show you the mistakes that I made, so just so you'll be aware of it when you go, if you wanted to do this idea, then you'll kind of know this going in. So I'm just going to show you here. This is a spread that I did. Now, I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick up on this, but I covered up too much of the page, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of using a book as an art journal, because you want to retain, like, not all of the page, but you want to retain a lot of the page and then put your own art on top of it. So it's like you're working back and forth with the surface. So I'm gonna try to bring this up here, but this is the only part of the background that I left, and I think it's I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick up on that, but that was the only part that I left. And if I had to redo it again, I wouldn't cover so much of the page up. It still influenced my art, and I'll explain that later, but anyways, that's what I did. And over here, I didn't allow any of the background to show through, which completely defeats the entire purpose of using a book to, to paint over top. But I learned from it. Now this here, I did allow some of the script to show through, and it is like, it's got a different energy than what I normally do, and this is still like a first layer. But it did influence my work, which is the whole point of it. Like, I want the book that I use to challenge me and get me to think outside the box. So I'm going to show you another page over here. And over here, and as you can see, this book is falling apart. And I've just tried to kind of keep it together as best as I can. But I'm going to bring this up closer, and I did allow some of the initial page to show through, but again, not enough of the page, because I just was learning how to kind of use this, and there are some really beautiful images on the page. So say if I had to go back today and paint over top of this, I would retain a lot of this page, certainly not all of it, but I would sit there and I would try to find out, okay, how can I keep, say I would use my viewfinder and I would look and see what interested me on that page, and then I would retain that. So I'd probably retain like a good, 30 to 40% of the page. Like looking at it now, I would go, oh, I could draw a figure there, and I could keep this pattern for her neck maybe, and maybe keep some of it on her hair, but I didn't know, and so I learned from this. But this was my very first book that I used to turn into an art journal. Now I'm going to show you a few other books that I used, and then I'm going to do a demonstration of a first layers. Now this absolutely stunning book is a children's book, and I purchased this. It is an Italian version, so all the script is in Italian. And as you can see, I did retain a lot more of the page, because so all of this is the initial page, that is the initial page, that is the initial page, that is the initial page over here, and I think that is some of the original page, and as well as this and this. So I retained about 40% of the original page, and then I went in and put in my own painting. But this is probably a better way to use a book like this, like when you're purchasing or repurposing a book to turn into an art journal, because now you're using the images, and it's like a back and forth between the page and you, and the page and you, and then you just go back and forth. But like I said, for that first book, I just covered up like 90 to 100% of the page, which completely defeated the whole purpose, but I learned from it. And so over here also, this is the initial page. You can see all the script, and so all of this is the page, all of this is the page, and then I came in with, my artwork. So I probably retained about 30% of the page with this spread. And then I only worked on those 2 pages. And I just wanted to show you, though, some of the images. I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous. And like this red is just heart-stopping, and I'm just already envisioning so many ways I can use this red and retain most of it. And even with this script, like it's all in Italian, so I'm gonna retain a lot of that. So that is this book over here. So now I'm going to show you this book, and this is a book that is an Italian translation of a book on Van Gogh. So I retained a lot of the page here, because I'm going to bring this up closer, but this is a portrait that Van Gogh actually did, and this is all like this whole thing is his sketch, and I retained it. So I probably kept about, I want to say I kept about 50 to 60% of the entire page. And it really influenced me, because as you can see, this is my style, but I normally use way more color. So when you use a book like this, it will influence your work, which is the whole purpose of it. And I just wanted to show you some of the images here. They're really beautiful. And so see, I probably covered up too much of this page as well, but I know that is the initial page. That's some of the initial page. There's a little bit here. That's the initial page. So I probably kept about 25%. but just simply beautiful images here. So I think what I'm going to do is, when I do my tutorial for creating a first layer on something like this, I think I'm going to use this page over here because I'm really drawn to this red over here. So I'm just going to set this aside. And what I want to show you now is the artist I was talking about, Connie Solera. She came up with this absolutely crazy, brilliant idea. What she did was she turned her art journal into an art journal. So this entire book of hers is her art journal, and she had it printed, and then she turned it into an art journal so that, like, I purchased it and many artists around the world purchased it, and then they use it as an art journal. And in the beginning I was kind of worried because I said, oh my god, like, how on earth am I gonna paint over this gorgeous, like, look at this, like, how am I going to paint over this gorgeous surface? I didn't want to cover up her art. But you know, when I expressed my concern to her, she said, she explained it in a way that I totally understood it, because she has that kind of way of explaining things like that. And she said, really, when you do this, which is purchasing a book, whether it's, you know, Connie's book right here, or, you know, purchasing one of the other books I showed you, she said it's like you're having a conversation with the page. So instead of a blank white page, now you already have, so I'll show you here. So this is Connie's, this is 100% Connie's work. I didn't do anything on it. So now if I had to go in, I'm gonna have a conversation with her page. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, okay, you know, what is this page trying to tell me? What messages resonate with me? What appeals to me? Let me see. I really love this. And so I'm going to get up my viewfinder and I'm going to be like, wow, I just love that, you know? And I'm really loving all those, you know, the circles and the white dots there. And you know, oh, I love that color there. So I'm gonna look at it and I'm gonna see, what do I want to retain, you know, and then I will approach it much the same way as I would with one of my pages that I built from scratch, like just a completely white page. I might think, okay, I want to turn this into a face, or I want this to be her neck over here, because I'm really loving that graphic quality. I love those colors. So, you know, so I would go in and it's a conversation that I would have with the page. So I'm just gonna show you a few pages. I've probably worked about 20 to 25 pages of this. And if anybody is interested in me doing a flip through of this particular journal, from what I have worked on, then please leave it in the comments and I will do a separate video where I, you know, I go through my pages. But so this is a page where I retained, I still didn't retain a lot of the background. I don't know why. I'm trying to look here, and I think that is Connie's. I think maybe that and that. So I retained about 20, maybe 15% of her page. But the thing is, it still influenced me very heavily, because normally I don't work like this. So her page really influenced me, even though I didn't retain a lot of it, if that makes sense. Oh, I think that is her page, and these colors are her colors, I'm pretty sure. So anyways, now this is hers, so I retained that, and I think I retained some of that over there, and this is also Connie's right there. And so I did retain, you know, some of her page. But the thing is, I don't normally work like this. I mean, if I had to look at this, I mean, there's things that are still very much my style, but it's also different because I'm working in this journal. So she's, you know, her work is influencing me. And like I said, if anybody is interested in me doing a flip through, then please let me know, and I will do it in a later video. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm going to show you how I create my first layers on a book like this. And when I do look for a book that I'm going to turn into in my art journal, what I look for is really high quality paper. I just want a good quality paper, and I don't want it to be glossy. And then the third thing I want is I want it to speak to me. Like, I want the colors and the images and the whole entire vibe. It has to resonate with me. And that's why I pick the books that I pick, because it's just, you know, it's speaking to me. So what I'm going to do here is right away, I'm just so drawn to this whole red piece here. So I want to retain as much of that as I possibly can. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, like, it's got a very organic kind of a feeling, like as if it's a dress. So I'm just going to go with it, you know, I'm just going to kind of go with it like that. And this is all in Italian, so I want to retain some of that script, you know, the Italian writing. And I'm not going for proportion or anything like that. I'm really just kind of going for a vibe. So, like, I'm gonna try not to make the mistake I did with my first book, the very first book I showed you in this video, which is I covered up like 100% of everything. I don't want to do that. So I think I'm gonna kind of go like that. And because I want to retain a lot of this writing here, I think I'm going to work on the background and the neck a little bit. And I don't know if I am going to cover up the face. Now, this is transparent ink, so even if I put it over the writing, it is still going to show through. So maybe I can like kind of cover it up, but it's still showing through. And this is my first layer. And I want a really hot color. So I think I'm gonna go with either a red or an orange. I'm not sure. And I just cleaned up my desk, so I'm having a hard time finding my art supplies. Okay, so this is my cadmium red light in Liquitex, but it is an orangey color, and I'm just trying to see. I don't know. No, I don't think I think that's going to be too kind of clashing. It's going to compete with this red. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a black just to kind of like, so it's going to vibe with this black here. And so this is a good illustration of me having a conversation with the page, because I am working with what's already here. I am being influenced by it, and it's telling me, it's giving me like clues. So whereas if this was just a blank page, I may not use a black background, but because this already has stuff, I can see, okay, well, that black is going to vibe with this, and plus it's going to pick up on all the black that's here. So that's what I take from having a conversation with the page. Okay, so I am just going to go like that. And keep in mind that this is still a first layer. And I'm still keeping my very loose, playful, curious, beginner's mind kind of vibe going. Like, I'm still not really thinking about, oh, you know, what is it going to end up looking like and all this other stuff, which is a little bit more difficult to do when there's already an image here on the page. And this is a portrait by Van Gogh. And I mean, it's when he was in the mental institution after he cut off his ear, and he did a self-portrait with his ear cut off. So it's a very melancholy self-portrait, very painful, very sad, very, very human. And I absolutely love it. Anyways, I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent there. But what I was trying to say is it is more difficult to keep things on a very beginner's mind, especially when you have, like, say, this just phenomenal portrait by a phenomenal artist on the other page. You just have to really hold on to your sense of, I'm a beginner and I don't know what I'm doing, and it's okay. I really have no clue where this is going, and I don't have to know where it's going. It requires a lot of a sense of humility and humor, I guess, to hold on to that kind of attitude. Okay, so that's my first layer, and I am going to allow it to completely dry and then come in and see what I want to kind of add. I'm probably not going to use a lot of collage because I just kind of like that kind of very loose sketch-like quality to it. And so I'm just going to bring back my colors book, which is the very first book that I used. And so I'm just gonna, for instance, show you. Okay, so as you can see here, I covered up 95% of the surface, which really was dumb. It was just not a good way to go, because the whole purpose of using a book is to use a lot of the page to paint, to make your art, you know. So then it becomes a conversation, like Connie said, and now you're working in tandem with the artist or the images of the page. So this was something that I should not have done, which was cover up 95% of the page, even though the image that was initially on here did influence my art and did influence this image. It really did. Whether you can see that or not, it did. And so now, going back to this page right here, you can see how the images and even the writing on the page, it's about, you know, I really didn't do a whole lot, honestly, because what I used that was already on the page is about 60%, maybe even more, of the final image. Now this is only a first layer, so I'm gonna come back in. I'm gonna, you know, add more stuff. I'm gonna, you know, draw on it, add more paint, you know, this and that. So this is not complete by any stretch, but I am gonna retain this part here and the text, a lot of the text. I'm going to retain this through to the end. So now when I use a book to turn into my art journal, I use it in this way, which is retaining 50 to 60%, well, I would say 40 to 60% of my work. I don't want to retain, say, 95% of the work, because then there's too little of my work. And I don't want to cover up 95% of the work, because now it's, I'm not really utilizing the images that are on the page. So you want to have kind of like some kind of a balance. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope this has given you new ideas on how you can use a book that you really love to turn it into your art journal. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.